Okay, today we're going to be shooting a range hood cabinet. Historically, what we found is a lot of folks want a nice wood-looking range hood, but they don't want to, A, spend a ton of money on some of the more nicely done Stanisci Range hoods, which have a lot of slopes and curves and get kind of pricey. Or you want to have storage. If you're just going to do a blower up underneath with a little squirrel cage or whatever, and you want to actually stack things around your vent pipe, you want doors on your range hood. So Conestoga sells an actual cabinet that goes in as a range hood. So there's going to be 2 doors on this. There's a full panel floor in here that you'll cut to fix whatever venting system you choose. There's no liner or blower included with this, but I want to show you the underneath in a second. The point is you'll have to buy a blower and liner, but once you're done and you open this, you have full access to install your your ventilation system, and you also have access to put whatever, some cooking oils, some storage remaining in the cabinet. Now as I tip it over, I want to show you what's going on underneath here. You have a full cavity under here with a rail. It's about a 5.5-inch rail that you can fit a typical 4-inch liner. I'm not sure if cameraman James, you can see that. Is that better? So you got a whole area underneath there. 2 things about that area. One is it's really meant to hold a 4-inch stainless steel liner that you buy. They sell accordion liners. Braun makes a nice one. It'll accordion to fit pretty much any depth. This cabinet's 21 deep, so that cavity underneath there is about 19.5 deep. So you can accordion it out to 19.5 to fill that space. Pop your blower in there, whatever you choose. It could be a Braun, whatever you want, and you're good to go because you have no combustible surface. But what you are going to see is that unfinished edge below your liner, because your liner is going to stop about 1 inch above that arch, and all this under here is going to be unfinished. You can either paint that to match, which is the cheap way to go, or you can choose a matching interior option on this cabinet, which is the expensive way to go, because not only is Conestoga going to finish this whole underside area, this whole interior is going to become white to match the outside. So matching interior is an option, or just get some latex paint and paint what you see, or just leave it as blonde birch. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you. Just making you aware of that. And I'll talk about this a little more later in the video, but you also have some different shelf options you can put here to decorate this front panel area. And they have different cutouts you can do. We can do elegant arch or whatever. This is just a smooth Roman arch. So I think we'll get started on this assembly and show you how this actually went together. Okay, before we get into our assembly of a range hood cabinet for this Fleming install, I want to show you how to read the label. You're going to go fish out a box and you're going to ask immediately, how do I know where this goes? There happens to only be one range hood in this kitchen, obviously. But on these labels, the 3rd line down says customer item ID, and the 4th line says connects ID. Those 2 pieces of information correlate with your paperwork that you would have gotten from your cabinet coach here at Cabinet Joint. So the first one I mentioned, customer item ID, correlates to what we call a self-note. So on the label you're seeing on your screen right now, there's a self-note field in all caps. That's what we use to denote the location of that cabinet in the kitchen. So if you had a drawing from us, it's going to give you a cabinet number that references that cabinet number on the drawing. If there's no cabinet drawing, we'll use a term to say left of hood, right of dishwasher, something to indicate to you where that goes in the kitchen. The next piece of information on the label says Connects ID. Connects is the software we use from Conestoga to price your project. And the Connects ID on this one is 3. It says Kitchen 3, so we're in the room called Kitchen. And it's line number 3 on the actual paperwork, which you should see on your screen right now. So line number 3 is a range hood 3636 butt door. So now I know I have the right cabinet. In the case of inset, I have to go find my front frame because it's not packed with the cabinet itself. I did that. There's my frame right here. If you're overlay, you can find your frame in the cabinet box itself and begin assembly right away. My next step is to go unpack the box and inventory my goods, make sure I have no damage that I have to report, and also make sure I've got everything I need to actually build this cabinet. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, I've unpacked my box. We already knew we had a front frame, but in my box I did have my cabinet back. I've got a top, a bottom, on the left or right side, both of which are finished because range hood cabinets generally protrude beyond your normal 12.5 deep walls. So I have 2 finished sides. What I want to now show you, now that I know all my parts look good and are there, on the back of the frame, I've already gone ahead these hinge plates, but if you're overlay, just proceed through the video till you see me start putting the cabinet together, if you're overlay, because your doors just mount, the hinge mounts right to the edge of the frame, no worries. With inset, you have these buggers here, which are the hinge bracket, and the hinge snaps on, and they go in this way. So to try to work inside the installed or assembled cabinet, back into the frame, or if you're trying to drive towards yourself, it's really a pain. So what we recommend strongly is put your jig or your hinge plates on first before you begin assembling the box. So I've done these three, but I want to show you how I did that. And that is with what we have found to be our favorite tool, the Bloom Plate Mate. The Bloom Plate Mate is made by the manufacturer of the hinges themselves, Bloom, B-L-U-M. Bought this on Amazon for $100, and you're going to gasp and say that's too much money for a piece of plastic, but this will save you an hour or two or more worth of time in the course of your install or assembly of a 20 cabinet kitchen. If you don't want to buy one of these, you're just saying, hey, money's tight, don't want to buy one, that's fine. Get your tape measure, and you're going to measure from the top of the opening, you're going to measure to 3 1/8 of an inch and make a line. That represents the center of this bracket. You would slide that on, pre-drill a couple of holes, and sink your screws. So you're just basically either making your own jig or measuring to 3 1/8. And the reason 3 1/8 is because your door cup, concealed cup on the back of your door, that hole, that circular hole that receives the hinge is 3 inches to the center from the end of the door. But we also know that we have a small gap on inset where the door has to not sit right on the frame, but about an 1/8 or 3/16 of an inch gap. So we're giving it 3 1/8 so that we have the hinge where it needs to be, and then we have some adjustability here where we can move the door up and down at that point in time. But I want to show you how this plate mate works. I already bored those holes. Pretend this had no holes here at all. The plate mate simply wraps around the front frame. I pull it down into the corner. I've already dialed the screw in so that my screw head to the center line where that slot is the 3 1/8 I'm looking for. So I've already predetermined that. By pulling this in, I'm centering that hinge. I flip the orange lever to tighten that bracket on, and I grab the drill bit, and this Bloom Plate Mate comes with the drill bit, and I just run my 2 screw holes right there. These are at angles. So the jig already has the predetermined sleeves for the angle to get just what you need, okay? Put the bracket off, or the plate mate off. I grab the 2 long screws, and if you remember from our getting started video, we had you sort all your hinges and door glides and all the hardware and screws in a little cup, so it's very organized. I knew exactly what I needed. I grabbed my screws, I grabbed my brackets. I run the screw in just a couple of thread widths. Oops, not quite that shallow. About there. Just to get them started. And because this bracket has slots, it's not a hole, it's a slot. Those 2 slots are what go around the shaft of the screw. So I just do that. There's a hard edge here that runs right up against the front frame. I pinch it with my thumb, and I just drive it home. So now I've got my last bracket on, and I can begin the assembly of the cabinet. Move my plate mate out of the way. Grab some Type Bond 2. We like Type Bond 2. 2 or 3 work. Number 3 more for like waterproof applications like decks. This works great. You can also use Gorilla Glue if you use their wood glue, their white wood glue. But I'm going to start here and put a bead of glue right up here in the shoulder. A little bit on the outer shoulder where I can dodge the hinge brackets. Same on this one here. You don't want to use too much because this will squeeze out and make an awful mess on you. Okay, that inner one is the one you want to get a nice bead on. And then I'm going to put one at the top and the bottom on the outside of the panels because we don't want the glue to squeeze to the inside visible surface of the cabinet. So that's my starting glue. I'm going to grab my cabinet sides. It's got a slot here that lines up. This is my bottom where the Range Hood liner would go. So I'm going to go ahead and line up on the wrong side. I'm going to line up. Use my finger as a guide. I'm going to line up the top of the front frame with that panel, set it in place, and just hit it with my hand to make sure it's seated. If you need a little more than your hands, you can use a mallet. Grab my other side, do the same exact thing. Use my finger as a guide, get it as close to level with the top of the front frame as I can. Put it on. Now those 2 sides should hang out there for a minute because of those splines. And now I'm going to run a bead of glue halfway down the dovetails, all 4 dovetails. And the reason we're doing halfway is those panels will smear the glue the rest of the way through. It'll prevent us from having a big glob of glue at the bottom down here that we then have to wipe out. going to grab my top and bottom panels. I want the labeled side, which is the finished side, facing in, the unfinished side facing down. And I want those black splines to go into the slot in the back of the front frame. So I'm just going to put that into place. Some go in easy, some go in a little harder, but they almost always make a nice tight joint. Okay, want to make sure your sides are in nice and tight. You want to make sure you're nice and tight right here, all along here. And if you're not, you can keep tapping that on until you get, there it is, my glue squoze out. Make sure my side stays seated. Okay. That one's a bugger. It came out up top. There we are. Okay. Now I got to grab my other panel. Same thing. Finish side in. Line up my dovetailed slots. And press it in till it locks in place. And that one's in. Okay. So now my next operation, I gotta get this one down a little bit more here. There we go. My next operation is my cabinet back. And the cabinet back's gonna sit all along this back here. I gotta glue all of this next. And we're gonna lay that cabinet back on and pin it in place. So hang tight, we'll get that going. So I'm gluing on these shoulders all across the back. When I say shoulder, you want it on the horizontal or the vertical source, not the flat one, because the cabinet back's actually pre-finished and it won't stick real well. So I'm actually gluing on that flat, unfinished side of that rabbet. And then I'm just going to run my last bead across my top. Grab your cabinet back, and you will notice on said cabinet back, you have some scribe lines here and here. Those scribe lines represent your panels, and that's where you're going to nail. So I don't want to get this panel on upside down. I line those scribe lines up. I grab my mallet. I like to call it the persuader, and we just want to knock this top and bottom into this dado here until we're nice and tight. You'll hear it. It sounds like a thud instead of a rattle. That means it's fully seated now. Okay. Now you're going to grab your stapler. We use a Bostitch 18 gauge stapler with 1 1/4" brads or 1 inch brads. Nothing longer than 1 1/4", or they want to shank out and do all sorts of evil things. Anything shorter than 1 inch, you're not going to get a really good bond. So I'm going to go through here and put a pin in the center scribe line on the top and bottom. And the purpose there is to keep those tops and bottoms from popping, or the back from popping off the top and bottom. So now I'm kind of anchored. And now I just go along here and I'm going to put the gun with the heel on the back panel right into the corner. And we're going to pin about every 3 or 4 inches at a toenail angle, which is going to put that staple right into the cabinet side. And by doing this at an angle, we prevent the staples from popping out to the inside of the cabinet. I'm going to finish up going every 3 inches down my scribe lines here. Okay. Sorry about the compressor running in the background, but Normally on a wall or base or tall, any kind of cabinet, if it doesn't have a finished side, we'll actually run pins or staples to the side of the cabinet, because you won't see it, into the edge of this back panel, as well as these pins here, these staples here, which really holds that back on well. In the case of these finished sides, you're going to see that potentially, so we don't want to run staples. We just do these toenails. Once that glue sets up though, this box is solid. So let me stand this up and show you what we got. The heavy cabinet right here. This is one where you want a friend perhaps. Get these things out of the way. Okay. What I want to draw your attention to is I got some glue squeeze out. So my next operation is to always have a wet rag handy. Wring that sucker out every couple of cabinets because it's going to get kind of gooed up with glue. So I'm going to get a clean wet rag and wipe out any glue excess. And I also want to take off these stickers. And I want to describe these stickers and their purpose. These stickers represent all the information for that part, whether it's a cabinet back like I just peeled this off of, a bottom, or a left and right side. And the purpose is it identifies every aspect of that part and what cabinet it goes with. So if you were going to build this cabinet and you got to the point of assembly and realized you had a damaged piece, you want to peel the sticker off, take a picture with your phone and send it to your cabinet joint, cabinet coach, and he'll get a replacement panel on order for you. You don't want to peel these off till you know that you've got an assembly that's going to be good and not have to be replaced. Because if you peel it off, throw it away, and then start to build things, you're not sure what to call that or have to describe it to your sales rep. You want to make sure you keep that sticker around. So my last operation is grab my rag, which I'm going to go ahead and do, which I have off camera here. And I'm going to wipe out all the glue I can. And you can actually see we got some on the front frame. It wipes off slick as you please because everything's finished. And the interior will wipe clean because that's a UV coating. And that is a finished range hood cabinet. So we can go ahead and install this. We're actually going to need this today for our installation of the particular kitchen we're working on. So we want this to glue up and set up pretty quick. But that box is ready to install in about 20 minutes from now. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions on a range hood cabinet, feel free to give our cabinet coaches a call, 888-211-6482. One thing I didn't mention about this, and it's not an assembly thing at all, these cabinets come with an optional shelf, and as well as some optional knee brackets, but you can decorate this any way you want. Some people will put the shelf on there and then just run a crown molding underneath it, wrought iron brackets that you buy elsewhere to support your shelf. But the reason this looks so big and blank is it's meant to have a decorative shelf there that you can put plates or whatever on there. So your sales rep can talk you through your options in terms of what can go on that shelf. But there's a number of methodologies you can use to affix it and decorate that. So again, you have any questions, give us a call, and thanks for watching as always.